Hello, Dreamcatchers, and welcome to the Writer's Haven. I am your host, V. Helena, and this is part 2 of our 2-part series entitled Poetry Flow. I'm joined by my good friends and poets, Monda Webb, Charles Stokes, and Hermond Palmer, and we're discussing the genre of poetry writing and our passion for it. Join me in welcoming back to the Haven, Monda, Charles, and Hermond. Okay. So, Dreamcatchers, for those of you who missed it, in part 1 of our 2-part series, we talked about poetry writing in general. We talked about the poets that inspired us, and we talked a little bit about their writing. This segment, we're going to talk more about our individual work and how we go through the process of engaging in our poetry writing. So I'm going to start this off by asking each of my poets and good friends to read their favorite poem from their work. They have 2-3 books, so I'm sure it was very hard for them to determine which one to use, but they have humored me and are going to read their favorites. So we're going to start with my dear sister, Monda Webb.
Ladies first.
Ladies first. That's right. Now tell us which book it's from.
Okay, so this particular poem is from Life is Like a Soul Train line. And I have to read from this paper because I don't have any more copies.
She's out of print,
Sold
ladies
out.
and gentlemen.
Thank you. Just order some more. And but I look forward to sharing this. I think that this for us is the year of the woman.
Absolutely.
And I just want to, this poem is actually dedicated to women. Okay, it's all love. But this is for my sisters.
Yes.
Okay. If it is the women who hold up the sky, then can somebody please tell me why Chicken Little thought the world was falling down, even though his tiny little feet were planted firmly on the ground? I know. He didn't have a woman around. Woman, sister, mother, aunt, great, grand, and friend. Round, thick, tall, angular, short, wide or thin, we are what makes the world go round, offering shoulders to lean on in all shades of yellow, white, red, black, and brown. You see, we're there for one another, life preservers, handmade by God to prevent the drown. Through the sorrows, the loss, the heartache, the pain, it is He who gives us the strength to get back up, dust ourselves off, stand tall, and walk again. We are sisters, all of us, though not bound by blood, flesh, or laughter, and bones, but connected by the common threads that make up love, life, and laughter, like childbirth or motherhood, menfolk, and vanilla ice cream cones. Like loyalty and friendship and compassion from here to the ever after. We learn from our life lessons, and that makes us phenomenal. We teach our children, and that makes us instrumental. We love our families, and that is unconditional. We give God the glory, and that makes us eternal. You see, we are on fire. We are inspired. We continue to aim higher, and we push, and we push, and we push, even when we're tired. We are built to uplift, to support, to comfort, and even to cry. So it's no wonder then that it is the women who hold up the sky. Thank you.
Yes.
I did myself a snap.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, love it. Was there anything in particular that inspired that piece of work?
It was a proverb, an African proverb, and then I also found that it was a Chinese proverb. So it looks, and that made me feel that we are all connected.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was just the inspiration, looking at the proverb and just thinking about how we as women, we have to look out for one another and our families, our loved ones, and all the petty stuff aside, let it go.
Let it go. Love.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay, Hermond.
And you want me to follow that?
Yeah, sorry,
Yes, okay.
you must.
Well, this is going to be from my book, Open My Words to Fill the Light in You, the new book. And I have many favorites, but the favorite I'm going to share this evening is called Black Man Personified.
I'm going to lean in for this one.
Yes. I am an echo of justice denied, a litmus test that measures a nation's commitment to its own ideals. I am a living, breathing anthem for human rights. I am the Middle Passage, the cotton fields of Georgia, the mighty Mississippi, the Underground Railroad. I am the North Star, the undimmed light from the souls of black folk, the strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. I am the rhythm of this nation's beating heart. I am the Renaissance of Harlem, the Freedom Riders. I am 4 little girls in the rubble of a church in Birmingham. I am the March on Washington. Mine is the back that shouldered the burden of civil disobedience. I am power. I am, as I ever was or will ever be, an unflinching example of the faith, grace, dignity, and courage that bolsters the human spirit and is personified by the black man's existence here in America.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Hermond. You know, that has, I know, that has invoked so many different feelings as you were reading that.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you.
it took me to our struggle, our civil rights struggle.
That's it.
It took me to Michelle Obama. I mean, I just
Absolutely.
had all of these different feelings and visuals in my mind as you read that. Wow, that's powerful.
Thank you.
And that was intended.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to show us just how great we are. No matter what anybody else says, I want us to know we're great for nobody else's sake but for our own. And to see it in our history, it is a challenge to us to realize our own potential.
Wow, it is. Phew. Okay, Charles.
All right.
So you're reading from your latest book.
Yes, The Depression and Its Acceptance. And I'm going to read a poem that embodies that.
Okay.
So I was perched on a branch of depression, where anxiety's feathers flap, panic nests, where my thoughts rest. Bedded in the cover of trauma, tucked between here and the end of September, surrounded by falling fauna. Over the weather, molding my globe, my heart cost the amount of love it cost to thaw permafrost in Antarctica. Empathy for those who would watch me wither in winter weather without a jacket, nylon or leather. Love letters seem to warm these geostorms that form when misinformed weather warns of a woman's scorn. The season passes while I adorn her staining eyes, and the inside of mine no longer look as if they are torn by wars, claiming firstborns who can't benefit from a resource of a just war fought for his own soil. Scorched by scores of sworn soldiers sown on stealing his own oil. Toiling over what this means and the tree that I stoically sit, it would only befit if society labeled me amid anguish, agony, and arrogance a misfit. I insist the weather requires a sweater, as I stare harshly in my reflection, trying to convince my depression that its acceptance has been dismissed.
Wow.
Wow.
All righty.
Okay. Very.
And he
deep.
memorized it.
He memorized it.
That's the crazy part.
And the flow that you
Oh my
talked
gosh,
about.
the rhythm and all.
that you talked about in part 1 of this was very, very evident in how you read it and how you performed it.
That was beautiful.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Gosh.
Thank you.
So I saw wars. I saw innocence. I saw chaos. But then I saw something else, like a little slither ray of hope, but it was dim. What did you see?
I was drawn to like the Mideast and the challenges that they face, and the fight for peace.
Yeah.
And we're all born. We're not asked to come here, but we're here, and we deal with the circumstances with which we're dealt. And I think of these children who have to endure so much, and it's not their fault. You're a deep brother.
Yeah.
I looked at the calamity and having a bird's eye view of all the trauma that we cause ourselves as humans. And the questions that we ask ourselves, is it worth it, right? And what can we do to change it? So, yeah, I got a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You need to do a CD. Straight up.
Yes.
We can read it, but we can't do it like you. And when you do it, people get it. You need to do a CD.
Right,
DVD,
right.
video.
Let's talk about that, because we kind of talked a little bit about that during the break between the shows. So let's just start with yours and the flow. So there's how you read it, and then it's written in your book, and how you read it and how you want it to come across. The way that you show it, the way that you have it written in the book is going to play a lot into how the reader interprets it. So let's, I'm not, we're going to start with you, but I want everybody to kind of join into the discussion, because as poets, we're very deliberate about how we phrase things. So for that piece of work, and since you stole my copy of your book, I can't see. I wanted to read along while you're reading it. While you were performing it. But so it was written, and the phrasing was as you said it.
Slightly different.
Slightly different.
When performing it, I have to change words for flow purposes. But at the same time, in the book, I want to keep it so when the reader reads it, I don't want to lose them. Particularly some of the breaks. The breaks are one line off. So the line about Antarctica and what my heart calls actually starts in the second portion, and it's not when I speak it, it's actually
it looks like it's all together.
Yes.
Tell us what you're experiencing when you're putting it on the page.
When I'm putting it on the page, I'm trying to capture the spirit of what I'm trying to convey, but I'm also trying to do it with the mindset that somebody else is going to be reading it. So I want them to have the rhythm that I have when I write it. So I don't use commas. You might see a line with one word. You might see a line with 3 words. And I use the ... a lot. That's like pause. And then you go on. And by doing that, my hope is that they can have a better shot at replicating what I hear in my head as I'm writing this, what I hear in my mind when I'm reading it to myself, to try to approximate what I'm experiencing so that I know they can get the same experience and appreciate it as I hope it would be. Yeah. It's not easy. That's why you got to do a CD.
It's hard.
Well, the thing about your writing too, so there's flow and you mentioned rhythm, I think, in the first one. But because you're a songwriter, and so your experience in writing it is, I'm assuming, going to be from that vantage point.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I want them to feel the rhythm. There's like every piece has a life of its own. And you want that rhythm to come through in the words and how it's laid out on a page. The page is almost like a map for how it should be performed in your mind. And the best way you can do it is like where you put your breaks and how many words are on a particular line, and that's the best way I can approximate what I'm trying to capture.
Okay.
I look at it like a river, and I look at it like breathing. And so when I run out of breath, I start a new sentence. And so it's like the poem has to take a certain shape. Not like an animal shape or anything, but when I look at it, one word may be out of place, and I'll attach it to the end of this sentence, or I'll give it a space. But it has to have a certain, and it's hard to explain. It's nothing that was taught, but it feels like that river that has tributaries, but it all comes back to rhythm, to flow, to light.
But the other thing I like about poetry, unlike anything
Sensei.
else, is the fact that you are in control. You don't have to follow the rules. Like if you're a novelist, if you're a screenwriter, it's very rigid in terms of what you can do. But poetry, you are totally free.
Yeah.
And that is extremely powerful and liberating. It's like, yeah, I can do this. 'Cause you don't have to worry. The one thing I would tell a dream catchers, don't worry about can you do it, can't you do it. Just try it. Just pour in and try it and allow yourself to fail. That's the only reason why you'll be able to succeed.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, we've talked about the inspiration, we've touched on process a little bit, but going back to process, you guys have written multiple books. And you had said in part 1 that your writing for book 1 had changed in book 2. So let's talk about that. I don't know if that's the case with the two of you, and you're evolving and then writing your next book. But what are some of the things that you do notice about your writing, even today, that's different from how you experienced whatever you were experiencing that inspired the writing?
My first book, I was writing for myself. In the second book, I began to write for others. I began to write to give off a feeling, not self-satisfaction.
What about you, Monda?
Primarily, I just keep it simple. I like to educate, elevate, inspire, and entertain. And more importantly for me, I like to look at those universal truths, those things that all of us can relate to, that no matter where you are, that you know this subject matter, and you know this feeling, because it's a human experience. It's something that we can all relate to. Mm-hmm. And so I just think that, with the writing of poetry and the freedom of it, as a young person, especially being raised by a Southern mom, they say, kids are seen and not heard. Mm-hmm. I often felt as if my voice was suppressed. So through poetry, that's my way of, screaming to the world, if you will, on paper, so that I can be heard. Yeah.
Well, you are definitely heard.
And that's been constant in all of your books. Those themes, those elements.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My feeling about my work is that I'm evolving in that I'm becoming more confident. The feedback I've gotten from the first book has been very positive. Thank you very much. And so as a result, I feel like I'm able to take more risks. I'm able to have more fun in terms of I will start a piece in one direction, and people, it's human nature, they try to anticipate what's going to come. Mm-hmm. And then just when they think they figured it out, all of a sudden, I flip it. And they're like, whoa,
red herring.
What just happened? But I still want it to be fun. And so I did a lot of that, more confident in this book, using, like you said, universal imagery, so that even if you're not African American, I use my words to paint a picture so that you can still understand the experience, at least begin to understand the experience, if you're honest. Mm-hmm. And in this next book that I'm doing, I'm unapologetic. Again, as a result of what's going on in society, all that, I'm going in. And I'm like, look, this is it. It's irrefutable. This is truth. And whether you see it or not or accept it as your truth, I don't care, because it's my truth. And my truth deserves a voice just like everybody else's does. So if you don't feel it, then this isn't for you. And I'm fine with that.
So the theme is going to be focused on?
A lot on the African American experience.
Social injustice.
Oh, yeah.
But also the pride.
The pride. Oh, pride and we matter. We're here, and we ain't going nowhere. We're going to be here. So accept it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Looking forward to that one.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a name yet?
Oh, I do. What the ancestors said, and I decided to listen.
Oh. Yeah, we might have to read that one.
For sure. Okay, so all of us are self-published authors.
Yep.
Okay. So, we can't talk about writing without talking about how we get our work out there.
Yeah.
And as self-published authors, we do a lot more in getting our work out there. But one thing that, and I may be completely wrong in my thinking of this, but one thing that I take pride in as being a poet is just this feeling that, as you said a moment ago, the freedom of writing. So, if I want to put a comma there and it may not be grammatically correct, that's okay. So that there's the freedom of doing that. And that actually, I believe, puts us on a different pedestal and echelon of writing, the genre of poetry. So, now that I have, this big-headedness about me, about poetry, I feel that it also kind of ties into how we connect with our readers. And in connecting with our readers and how we not only publish our books, but how we market our books. So let's talk a little. I mean, am I by myself on this?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. Not at all.
See, we're all there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. And that experience with dealing with a fan base, as you used the word earlier, or just people who have just come across our work and has an appreciation for it as self-published authors. How does that tie in?
In this area, we're blessed to have busboys and poets.
Yes.
So you can go there, and if you're fortunate enough to get there early enough to get on the list, you get to perform your work. And that's almost like a laboratory, because once you perform it, you're getting real-time feedback from people who know poetry, are interested in poetry, and who could potentially buy poetry. So that's one way. When you start building credibility with that audience, and then with social media, you have a whole portfolio of opportunities to go out and market yourself. You've got YouTube, you've got Facebook, you've got Boomerang, you've got all these different avenues to get your name and your work out there. One thing I do is I post different pieces on Facebook, and I've been blessed to have a very supportive community back home in Teaneck and places I worked here in D.C., and they're like, look, when you coming out with something else, I like your stuff. And that means so much to an aspiring artist, to let you know, like, just the validation.
Validation. Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm not wasting my time. And more importantly, I'm not wasting other people's time. So that's tremendous.
Okay. So, any other thoughts?
Yeah, well, I know you have your thing. You really have a thing. I just wanted to talk to the importance of relationships and being able to leverage those relationships. And to Hermond's point, being here in the Washington metropolitan area, there are a lot of people who are lovers of the arts. And if you're able to get in front of an audience like a Sharon Lucas, who does the Readers and Writers Book Weekend every year, and to be able to get a platform, if you read one or two poems, that becomes a venue where you can sell your books as a vendor. Also, if you start to build relationships, I know for me, with the book clubs, and they're interested in maybe what you write, but they're also interested in hearing you. And that's been very instrumental. So, and all of this comes just through building relationships and word of mouth, getting out there, slinging books wherever you are. And if you have an opportunity to be a panelist or to get a speaking opportunity, have those books with you, because people, just like, Hermond's like CD, you'll sell them, because people like, it's almost experimental. They like what they hear, and they want more. But oftentimes they have to hear it first.
Right. Yeah.
That's
very
the
good
sample.
point.
That's the sample.
Very good point.
So, Monda mentioned some things that I haven't done, and that's like book fairs and book clubs. But the Instagram, your Facebook page, word of mouth. Like, one thing I do is every time I release a book, every Busboys and Poet host I see, I hand them a book. I give it away. They'll read it. They may write a review. Reviews on Amazon, very important for marketing and getting your word out there. There's a certain number of reviews that you get on Amazon that Amazon will start promoting your book for you. Yeah. And it's key to get those 25 positive reviews. Right. And Amazon will begin to market your book for you. And also, an author platform, a website is good. It could be a one-page Wix site that you do for free, or what's the one they call the WordPress? Yeah. WordPress. Plug and play, very easy, and you drive people to your website. You give them more content, and visually, you want all of that to look good. It's very helpful.
One thing I got to say, I was waiting. You giving us this platform is tremendous. I mean, so many people would not know about Hermond Palmer if not for the Writers Haven. Oh my goodness. I appreciate you having this opportunity. Is tremendous. I mean, this is a game changer. So thank you. Seriously.
Oh wow. I do it for the dream catchers. Those people who are inspired to write and to look at those examples that are embodied in the three of you tonight, and just hearing how you do what you do. and being able to connect the dream catchers to dreamers who will eventually also become dream catchers is why I do what I do.
Well, thank you for doing it. And please keep on.
And I shall. I know that we're running out of time, but I do want to just ask one question before we wrap, and that is, what's next? What do you guys have going on? What's in the pipeline for each of you?
Amongst the many things. As far as books, I am looking at compiling a coffee table book called In Between Raindrops that takes a look at images, it's beautiful images, and some of my music.
Okay, we'll be looking out for you. You'll be back on the Haven talking about it. What about you, Charles?
So next for me is on March 19th, I published this chapbook about Pisces. And so, but I actually have a partner. And we are going to publish a chapbook series involving the zodiac.
Okay, Mr. Hermond.
Aquarius.
Got a couple.
Well, in 5 seconds or less.
5 seconds. I'm excited about this poster project I'm doing with her brother, Chris Barkley, who's a wonderful, phenomenal photographer. And it's art through activism. And it's going to be about 10 to 15 pieces. You'll see an iconic portrait, and you'll see my words to complement it and set the mood.
Oh, nice.
So we're real excited, and that's what's next.
Okay, well, cool. I mean, you guys never disappoint. Come up with these extraordinary things that you're doing as you continue on your journey of writing and just artistry in general, just the creativity that's in the room. I can just feel the vibe. So Dreamcatcher, that wraps our 2-part series entitled Poetry Flow. I hope you enjoyed the discussion and that it infused golden nuggets into your writing process. You can follow poets Monda Webb, Charles Stokes, and Hermond Palmer on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more information about their work and projects. And if you missed part 1 of this series, you can catch it in any of our missed shows by connecting with us on YouTube, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Sonos, Alexa, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Just search for us under the title, The Writers Haven Show with V. Helena, and subscribe. Until next time, I will see you in the Haven, and I want you to catch fire on purpose.
Oh, yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.